I'm going to ask you, how are you pharma free? You talk about the fact that you and your girls have been pharma free. And I'm thinking, what do you do when they fall and scrape their knees? So give our listeners and our viewers a little insight into Dr. Kelly Bergen's pharma free life, because I'll tell you, that's my target. We've obviously tossed all the NSAIDs out and the painkillers and all the usual stuff. But help us understand how you can lead a very pharma-free life today.
Yeah. So, this is not a recommendation. It's just, I think it needs to be presented as an option, right? Because when I reference Maya Angelou and I say, when you know better, you do better. How do you know it's an option to live without pharmaceuticals if you never heard that somebody is doing that, right? Exactly. So it's more presented in that spirit. For me and my healing, this boundary has been very important. I put down my prescription pad 10 years ago. I have never started a patient on medication again. That has been very important for me. Who knows? Maybe I'm burning off karma, from all the prescriptions I wrote to pregnant women of all people. So that's been a very important boundary. And honestly, in my household, yes, we don't use any pharmaceutical products of any kind ever. And, from all of them, any of them, you name it, under any circumstances. And it's not so much like a dogma, although it certainly could sound like that. It's not so much that as it just doesn't make sense in the worldview that I inhabit. And that's why I introduce concepts like German New Medicine, which is just one modality. Louise Hay has another modality that, she popularized, but there are many, emotion code is another. There are many others where there is an understanding that even accidents happen for a reason. And that sounds like, oh my God, you're blaming the victim. What are you doing? That's insane. There are random forces. And yes, the moments that we are watching crystallize before our eyes are the result of, trillions of different interacting variables. And there is a randomness for sure. But I prefer to live in a universe where actually there's meaning everywhere. And honestly, the reason is because it feels better to live in that world, because then I'm not scared, right? And I can find the meaning and I do not suffer, right? So like one of my friends' daughter just broke her toe. And like the first, like in a rather violent, kind of accident in the door and whatever. Mm-hmm. And so the first place that we go to sharing this ethos is not, how do we give her antibiotics and painkillers and blah, blah, blah. It's what's the significance of that toe, in an emotional, way, like in certain. So again, I'm very interested in German New Medicine. I find great pearls there, and there are other modalities, but you can learn what that message might have been. Now, if you have a sore throat or a urinary tract infection or whatever it might be presenting itself symptomatically, something that's not necessarily like an accident like that, it can also be very tempting to feel like I've got to get back to life. Like this is so interfering and so problematic, let alone potentially scary. If it gets worse or goes to my kidneys, or I have a toothache and then I get an ear infection and it goes to my brain, or whatever people are told. And if you choose to believe that the body, this is your body showing you something, it's you showing you something, then there's like nothing to fight here. And then the interventions are more about support. How do I support and nurture my body? So that's where things like, flower remedies or homeopathy or herbs, chicken soup, that's where these things come in, and you just choose not to freak out. It's really just a culture of opting out of the freak out, because that's what we do. Grown adults are just constantly freaking out about these
fear, constant fear.
But it's like, it's fine. Everything is fine. The symptoms resolve. And because I've lived this way, I see they resolve always.
Exactly. Exactly. I think fear has been used as a way to really sell. We use fear very successfully in commercial practice to create sales. And unfortunately, a big part of healing is getting out of that fear-based mode of living. And I think you do a great job sharing how some of the tools, et cetera, that we can all deploy.